Jay Liggs, and you are back rocking with the Culture Cure. I appreciate you tuning in with us this evening. We are at our new location, new home. Everybody happy?
Yes, I feel really official now. I know.
Phone, headphones, feeling good, feeling great.
Absolutely.
So once again, I got my favorite people in the world with me this evening. How's everybody week been?
Tiffany's week has been a week, but I'm not complaining about it at all.
So we're just gonna start with you, Tiff, because you know.
I started with myself.
You did. So how was your week?
It was okay. It was a week.
You're not gonna give us any specifics?
I mean, it just.
It's been that week, that kind of week. I know.
It's not really one specific thing that, kind of made it blah for me. It's just, it's a week. It wasn't last week.
Last week was good.
Last week was great.
Okay.
It wasn't last week.
What happened to you last week?
I had fun.
We're gonna leave that alone.
Okay.
Kool-Aid smell like she had some fun. Right?
Oh, we can talk like that now. I forgot.
I'm not
She
gonna
would rather not.
I don't know what you're
So
talking
you
about.
let me know you had that kind of fun.
No.
That's basically what you just did.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I'm
So
just gallivanting in the park.
Okay, that's what you call it now?
Playing
Right.
kickball.
Okay.
Right.
Leave her alone.
You kicked the ball, all right? So,
You kick what?
My word.
so Soraya, how was your week?
Yes. My week flew by. I don't know. Like, I didn't realize it was Thursday until y'all started talking about it. I'm like, oh my God, it's here already. But I work all weekend, so it's not like I have anything necessarily to look forward to. So
People like to look forward to work. Have a job.
it's a blessing, but
Yeah.
I would rather be at home,
Doing what?
binge watching something.
Mm.
You know, my favorite
If
pastime.
that's your favorite over there.
It sure is.
What are you binge watching now, then?
Life.
Well,
Oh God.
now, Vampire Diaries. Don't
Sounds
say
weird.
anything.
You've been watching it.
I knew you was
forever.
gonna say
Sounds
that.
weak.
It's 8 seasons, and
It's
I'm like
good,
on season
but
4.
it's a lot.
It's pretty
Sounds
good.
weak. Sounds
8 seasons is a huge undertaking.
Look, let me tell you something. I enjoy shows like
trash.
True Blood,
Trash.
Game of Thrones,
Okay.
stuff like that. Like, so this is right up my alley with the like werewolves, vampires, witches.
I mean, I could jump on the Game of
So-
Thrones train.
What you mean you can
That's
jump?
where it's
You're not
at.
already on it?
I'm on it.
Oh, I was about to
She's
say
saying
we
with
can't.
everything you named.
Oh, I was about to say we can't be friends anymore.
I know, I'm
I've
definitely
never
on that
seen
train.
an episode. Don't
That's
Whoa.
okay. I just started watching
Okay.
it like last.
I've got to
last
get
year.
into it because I feel left out. Like I'm usually on the.
Why don't you tell them?
No,
She is.
no.
Beyonce has taken over my life. As a beehive, I can only stand
Oh,
for one thing
God.
at a time.
All
That's
right,
fair.
so
That's fair.
So for all the guests that are not know, we have a
Man.
special guest in the building today.
we do.
Yeah, Aaron, why don't you go ahead and introduce her for us?
We have Deanne Austin with us today. Hi. She's actually born and raised in Detroit, and she went to Michigan State, go Green.
Woo, go on.
She got her bachelor's in journalism, and you also have a master's, right?
Yes,
From
yes.
Marygrove
Girl went to
College.
school.
I know,
Went to
right?
school.
I
She
owe a lot of
school.
money. I owe a lot of money.
Went
And
to school.
social justice, but you got your master's, and she's very active in the community. You just recently got appointed to MoGo Bike Ambassador,
Yes,
right?
yes,
That
for
was-
the Livernois.
and
with the
6 Mile area.
Yes, yes.
Right, cool. And so basically, you're gonna be here talking about, some mass transit improvements that need to go on in the city of Detroit as well as suburbs outside of Detroit, right?
Mhm.
And you were also featured in the Detroit News. So she'll give her Instagram later on, I'm sure, but, in her bio is the link to the actual article that you were featured in, talking about improvements for transit, and you've done a lot of other stuff which we can get into, but welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be
Very
here.
happy to
With
have
my
you.
BFFs in my head. I've been binge listening to you all. So
Great.
yes, and we'll talk later. But that Valentine's Day episode really touched me on a different
Girl.
level.
Oh my God.
It touched me on another level too. 'Cause Jeff was, yeah.
I was speaking the truth.
Get it that bad.
As usual.
I was
Yeah.
speaking the truth. Nothing but truth.
But I guess you can first start off talking about maybe transit improvements, like what really kicked that off. Like I read the article, which was great,
Right.
but you have like a backstory to it. So if you can let everybody know how you got into this in the first place?
Well, I guess I'm gonna talk about it because I've lived it. Just a short version, I graduated from MSU 10 years ago, and I'm one of those people that are like, oh my gosh, I was supposed to be this person. My mom got sick, she passed away, and so that was a life transition for me. But well, I guess I gotta backtrack a little bit. I am the oldest person in driver's training. Like, right, I am 33 years old, and I've driven before, but I've never had my license.
Really?
So,
That's okay.
right. So whenever I needed to go
Is it the
somewhere,
motors?
Right.
Right, she's getting there.
Yeah, she's gonna tell us how this works, because I need to know.
and so, I got a job, a small job, 9 to 5, working in Livonia. And so since I don't drive, I've taken 3 buses to get to work. And so that, it starts with my McNichols bus, my 32, and then I catch the Woodward, and then I get on the Plymouth, and so I would have a long commute because I would work afternoons. And
About
so
how long? Over 2
I-
hours?
yeah, it's a long,
crazy.
long time. And so, and I think it was like a double, pain in the butt for me because I was basically going to a job that I hated, and I'm not thriving, I'm still there. But however, I use that story as inspiration because I was trying to go back to school for social work. However, Michigan State sent me a nice little rejection letter and said, hey, you need to take some more
money.
classes.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was about to say, you need to pay
Right,
before
right.
you enroll.
And then I remember, hey, I'm already working on one master's. How about I finish that first before I try to go and get another one? And so my teacher recommended, transportation. People don't realize that, transit issues are civil rights issues, in the long run. Like we have empathy for the homeless. Like I would love to open up a homeless shelter, but I've never had that experience. So no matter what I talk, if I was to talk about the effects and side effects of being homeless, I could never really relate. So she told me to choose an issue that I could, speak on, and that was, she was like, well, talk about transportation, talk about, that 2-hour ride, those buses that, don't come on time. And
Preach.
yes. And so while I was working on my paper and, talking more about it, I really got a first hand-on view of different riders, and kind of there's an elitism, like you said, we're the motor city. If you've always been in your car, you never really think about the bus. But now, unfortunately, while I'm proud that people are riding the bus and that stigma is, getting away from that, now transit is a big issue. And that kind of annoys, a lot of people, a lot of Detroiters, because they said, the young kind of white millennial people that now need transit, now it's a big deal.
Now
It's
it's an
important.
issue. Now
Right
we
now
need
it's
to
an
fix it.
issue.
Yeah.
And so, and we'll, I know you guys know gentrification and what's,
Yes.
You
All,
know,
We witnessed
all
that
too well.
firsthand last weekend.
yes. And
Yeah.
so it's, I'm glad that people are talking about transportation, but I'm also noticing there's a big disconnect when I go to these, input meetings or transit, events around town. I'll go to a transit event at the Pizzaplex or Midtown, and I'm the only person of color. Or if you go to a community input meeting, you're going to see most black and brown people talking about what's going on with the bus. So I think there needs to be kind of, not so much a gatekeeper, but there needs to be a connect where people are not only talking about transit, but talking about, getting certain issues done. So,
A bridge,
yeah.
a bridge, someone to link it.
And you're that person.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
No, I think that's great, and that's absolutely true, as far as Detroit expanding and us getting more things, all condensed in one area, and even with the gentrification, I know we feel like, oh, it's only because now they want it, now white people want it, but it's something that will benefit all of us. And growing up, I can probably count on one hand how many times I took the bus, because I was one of those people like, oh, I just need a car, flat out. And as soon as I'm 15 and however many months, I'm gonna get my license. But I say all the time, like I lived in New York for a couple of years, and seeing how their public transportation worked, even though it's not the cleanest, but seeing how it worked and it was so efficient in getting around, that really opened my eyes. Like, even if we had something like this for the everyday commuter, for the person who wants to go out on the weekend and want to be safe, things like that, it would be great, and I'm happy to see that we're expanding in that area, and like you said, more people of color need to get involved so that we don't miss the mark and we know what our resources are.
Right, right. And, you know, like I said, I just got the MoGo Ambassador position, and they're expanding. They're going, I believe, to Ferndale and Royal Oak and Livernois. And so my grandma, she's kind of getting scared because she was like, those bikes at downtown are going to be like in the hood. And I'm like, you know, and I think in terms of gentrification, you know, if it displaces black and brown people, of course, you know, that's a bad thing. However, I want young people to know that you deserve nice things. I deserve to walk down Livernois, go to my coffee shop, hop on a bike, catch, you know, get on the 32. Right, right. You know, it's a great time. It is scary because, you know, Livernois does not look the same as it once did when I was little, and so. But it's also I'm glad for the you know, it's expanding. You know, the neighborhoods are getting better, and so. You know, I'm excited. I'm a little scared. I'm always gonna have that watchful eye, but I'm happy about it.
So something you, that was brought up in the article, is that you want Detroit and the suburbs to kind of link up and connect, because, there was a point, I know there was another guy featured in that same article who was having the same issue, like it was taking him like 3 hours to get to work every day, right? That's like a full-time job by the time you get to work, and then
You're doing 6
going back
hours
home.
a day
Yeah.
in transit.
So, somebody made a point saying that, basically like, these underprivileged people in the city who live in the city have to you know, hop on 2 and 3 buses to get to a job that's out in the suburbs that's not even paying anything close to good enough.
It's not
That's
worth
not
it.
worth it. 'Cause didn't you had to also take an Uber?
Yeah, I said
By
it
the-
still doesn't
yeah, like,
get
doesn't
to
get
where
you all the way to
yes,
work.
3 buses,
Oh my
and
goodness.
once you got in the city that you worked in, you had to take an Uber also.
Right,
Like,
right,
that's
yes. Mm-hmm.
That's ridiculous.
Outrageous. That's extremely expensive, I'm
That's a
sure.
commitment on
Yeah.
your behalf,
Yes.
so, you know, I admire that.
We did get some exciting news that DART, which is like the collaboration of DDOT and the Smart Bus, that with the you know, 50-cent hike, you know, the bus fares will be going to, for a single ride, instead of $1.50 to $2. There's gonna cut down on all those transfers, like that extra 25 cents and here, you know, little change. We've been asking for a universal fare system to make, you know, just simplify it, make it easier, because, you know, people traveling, going to work, going to the suburbs, going to Detroit, you know, it's so much gets lost, so much money gets lost, and I'm not gonna sit here and say I have a doctorate in Detroit transportation and stuff like that. I don't know how the new fares will affect, you know, the lower income riders. I just, you know, they say that I think either 89% or something like that live below the poverty line in Detroit. And so we know that this city is 2% black. I am concerned. I know that there will be some improvements for if you have a Medicare card and students, or you're disabled and things like that. However, I'm worried about maybe that single mother with all her kids trying to get around, or that, you know, that older person who, you know, might not have those new, you know, reductions, how that 50 cent is going to affect them. You know, the jargon has been kind of dressed up pretty nice. I did attend a city council hearing. Shouts out to Council Pro President Mary Sheffield and Councilwoman Lopez, because they, you know, they always have the Detroit's most vulnerable people, you know, in their eyes, who wanted to look at that and have that low income amendment there, so that they could take a closer look at how this spike is going to affect them. Because like I said, it's going to take into effect next week. So I can't say it's totally bad. You know, there's some good, you know, amenities. I hear that, you know, for me, I don't really carry cash. If you get, you know, a smartphone, you can pay for your fares on your phone.
Cool.
So
I
that,
didn't
you
know
know,
that. I
that's
didn't know
really
that.
good. Or, you know, you get longer transfer times, you know. So, you know, those are good things. I don't know so much about the bad side effects just yet, but I am, you know, having that close full ear. And so there has been, I don't want to sit here and say it's totally crappy. I want to say since the years since I did that article, as the anniversary approaches, there has been great, improvements. I mean, the Woodward goes down the Woodward Street now. You guys do not know understand.
Yeah.
I am so happy. I have a hate-love relationship with the Q line. Well, that's
I was gonna ask you
another
about
I'm
story.
still not rode it.
I'm
It's the people move around the ground.
yeah.
I figure if that goes really,
Same distance.
Like a billionaire got a nice fancy toy car to go in the middle of
And go
the
back and
street,
forth.
and it's kind of like, you guys could have just expanded, the
The
Woodward
people.
bus or
Oh,
something
yeah.
like that.
Oh, yeah.
Because now they're like, oh, the Woodward's improve is going down, but I'm gonna be honest, I rarely see the Woodward sometimes. If one breaks down, it's no longer that 10 minutes. It's like a 15-minute break, even though it goes down Woodward, and now it's so congested because it has the queue,
Yeah.
and then bike share is coming along, so we're gonna have the bike lane, so it's like we're all gonna have to, get along
And
now.
learn how to do
Yeah,
that,
right.
'cause that's not
Right.
something we're used to here.
Right, right.
I think with the Q line, the original goal was for it to expand and go out into the suburbs.
Mhm.
But,
Yeah,
I
it's
thought
different.
I heard
Yeah.
that.
it was, that's what the
Oh.
goal was, but I can't, who's the county commissioner of Oakland County?
They said no.
Yeah, they shut that down. So you gotta think, like, you can bus a lot of Detroit kids or a lot of Detroit people into these suburbs. So I was gonna ask you, like, what do you think some of the limitations are of expanding not only bus transit, but like the Q line or whatever into the suburbs?
Well, I know with the Q, the biggest issue we're having right now is that it doesn't go too far. Like, I think it starts at the boulevard,
Mhm.
and then it goes further down near Campus Marshes and things like that. But it's going to be hard. I hear that when it breaks down, it's like the worst thing that can happen. Like, the maintenance on it is just crazy. Again, it doesn't go that far. So I feel like if you want to go to a game or a concert and you don't live in the city, it's the safest way for you to just hop on board and go on.
Yeah.
But we all, if you ride the Woodward, hey, that's a straight shot. You just ride the Woodward and that gets you further down. You're going to class and things like that. So it's just, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I try not to be. But you have to know that who these things were put in place for. And so I'm not going to say that the Q isn't for us, but it wasn't originally.
But it isn't for us.
It isn't for. And I've been on, I'm not even going to front.
Well,
I've been
She
on
said
the
what
Q.
she said.
I mean, I think that's the honest to God truth.
Yeah.
I do, and I agree with you. I do think it's for those people. You're coming down for a game, because you going to pass every stadium.
Yeah.
You're going to pass all these hot bars.
How
Yes.
convenient is
So
that?
so you come on down
It's starting to make me think
from
Detroit ain't for us.
Bloomfield.
Downtown.
You come straight down Woodward, you park your car here, you got some nice little parking for you somewhere, hop on. It's gonna take you and drop you wherever you wanna go.
Yes.
You get drunk,
Mhm.
you just may stay down there, or you hop back on and you go home.
Right.
Mhm.
It's
Get
for
out of the
people come,
congestion.
right, I don't think that it was built for,
The commuter.
right, it's not,
The
it's
real-
not a
the
commuter.
real
It's
Detroiter.
a fancy
Right.
shuttle.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah, that's true.
exactly.
No. I mean, I was excited about it with the idea that it was going to expand,
Mhm.
but like we were kind of just mentioning, and we'll probably talk about that later, just seeing how things are changing, though, it is very clear what it's there for. And so, glad to hear that the buses are receiving an upgrade. I did see on your page that they have the, like the app, or you can see how much time
Yep,
that you have to
real
wait.
time.
That was
Mhm.
that was something that they had in New York that I thought was very helpful, because it was a bus stop right outside my house. And I would literally like, okay, I got 3 minutes, and run downstairs, and it would be right there. So I
Oh,
think
that's
that's something
perfect.
that's amazing, because as the weather gets bad, if it's hot, if it's cold, if it's raining, you don't want to be standing out there forever.
Right,
And let's
right.
face it, you can't always have a covered bus stop, so it's nice to
Yeah.
have it in real
Yeah.
I
time.
would have froze this winter.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
also noticing, because like I say, I take the 38 bus to Livonia, which doesn't get far. You just kind of you go into Livonia, but you really don't go into Livonia.
Right on the outside or something?
It's so much confusion. There's no really a lot of shelters for bus riders. It's kind of like you feel like they don't want you out there. They want you to go work at Walmart or work at Target, but get on your bus and go back home. And it's like, I saw an elderly gentleman, there was no bus stop, and the bus driver was like, well, you gotta stop at the stop, and it's like, there should be a stop sign with the clear signs for him to see, and it's like, you can tell that, you know, there's a, you know, this kind of elite, like, they don't really want certain people there,
Yeah.
you know, and so it's just, it's sad, but it's like, you know, unfortunately now transit, you know, it's sexy, you know, it's trendy. Come ride the queue, come, and, you know, hey, I'm an ambassador, but come ride our fancy shiny bikes downtown, you know, and it's like, I am for trying to, you know, let Detroiters know that you have alternative, you know, modes of transportation. Obviously, the Lyft and Uber is killing my pockets. I spend, you know, I would love to fill up my tank. You know, but my grandma goes, oh, you don't have the car insurance and all that stuff. And but I'm like, I'm still, you know, I'm sure there's nothing like getting in your car and saying, I want to go now. But for some of us, you know, public transportation is our only means. And so
the insurance is ridiculous in Michigan anyway. It's the most expensive state. So it's ridiculous.
So you're not missing nothing.
Not at all.
For those who don't really know about it, because I don't, can you explain the MoGo?
The MoGo, I'm sure if you've been downtown, you've seen these orange bikes.
I rode them. I like them.
I guess how does it work really? Like I've seen them, I just never like got on one like, and do you know anything about the little scooters too?
No, they're new, because I just signed on, so I'm learning too, because don't shoot me yet, but I haven't been on a MoGo bike yet, so I'm going to have to learn. There's gonna, you know, a lot of us,
over the weekend.
Right. But, okay, well, let me know, how does it work? Like, I know you get 30 minutes, and...
Yeah, so that's the part I don't like. So
that's short.
There's like a subscription you can buy, and you pay a monthly fee, so you can keep the bike off longer.
Okay.
You don't have to dock it every 30 minutes. But if you're just like a regular, hey, I want to go downtown and ride bikes with my friends, which is the situation I was in. Yeah. So every 30 minutes, we had to make sure that we were by a dock the bike, and then take it right back off. It's not a recharge. I think they're just trying to keep track of where they don't want you to, you know, ride to Livonia with the bike or be going with the bike for a long period of time, because the goal is for people to share these bikes. Right.
So what would happen to the bike in 30 minutes? It's gonna lock up?
Blow up.
They're going to charge your card.
How much though?
I think it's the full purchase price of the bike.
Probably.
What?
Do they hold, and anyway,
Because that's how it
do
was
they,
in DC.
and in New York, like they had city bikes, and they would automatically hold like $125 until you turned it back in. So
I never share. I use my credit card because I'm like,
you didn't care, you just swiping, ballers.
No,
but it's a lot
Do big things out here in these streets
because
too.
there was a guy standing there who kept giving out coupons.
Okay.
Man, what?
Yes, this was like last summer, and they were still fairly new.
Yes, and they still giving them out. I mean, I'll know more. At my orientation is next week, so I'll if you guys have me back, I'll come back and tell you all the things. But yeah, there's these little passes that they've been giving out that they're, you know, because especially since the weather's breaking.
Before I move
Girl,
downtown.
you know, Lord.
They just stand around at the station. It's like, hey, sir.
So you get like a pass for like what, a free 30 minutes or something?
No, it's a pass it's a day pass.
Oh.
You just have to keep docking the bike.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So you can keep, like, what we did, we drove the DeQuinder Cut, or not drove, we rode the DeQuinder Cut and rode to Eastern Market. It's such a cool idea, right? So we bought all this stuff at Eastern Market.
And now you gotta get it home.
No, and then our bikes were gone. So,
Somebody came and like, I don't mind if I do.
Correct.
Which technically they can do,
Right.
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's there, you know, it's there for them to ride. So
And
it's like,
it's the same thing as the scooters. Like once you put it
Right.
down,
Yeah.
It's not yours.
No
People
longer
leave
yours.
those outside my
So the
building
difference
all
with
the
the
time.
scooters
Yeah.
is that those things they don't have a range. Like once you can pay for however long you want to ride it. So like for instance, like places like the apartments downtown, if you have a gate, you can just park that boy by the door.
Oh my.
If ain't nobody else,
They're always
if
outside
ain't
my
nobody else
apartment.
riding, it's gonna be there in the morning. Now it might be dead though, but it's gonna be there in the morning. And then, cause you know that's like another hustle. I know a couple of people that actually charge those things. You can get on and you go find them, get your little pickup, get your friend Safford on. Throw about 15, you get them in the back, take them home, charge them up. You got
That's a good little deal.
$200-$300 coming in the month. And all you're doing is plugging the bike, little moped up.
and using your electricity.
Right.
Somebody's electricity didn't say mine.
Okay.
That's terrible.
Okay.
Deanne, you mentioned, you know, that we're not very present, or people probably don't know about this stuff. So what do you think is a good way to get that message out? Like, are the meetings being publicized, or how are they going about trying to get the education out there?
Well, I've been doing some community organizing, some things with the AmeriCorps, urban safety. And so at these like community meetings or like police meetings of the neighborhood block associations, I'm seeing a lot of older black women who are at these meetings day in, day out, but
'Cause we
they're,
always show
yes,
up.
and you're right, and they're like, you.
Always.
I'm not arguing
Always.
with you today. I'm not going there with you today, Jeff.
And they're like,
Keep your mouth shut.
Diane, come on, help me with, they're like my grandmother. They're like, can you help me, with my phone? Right. And so,
Yeah.
it's
Maxine
like,
Water Jr.
right, they are constantly there, but I think what we have is we have information, and people are like, well, black people, they don't want to be informed. A lot of the information is there, but they don't have access to it. I'm learning about so many wonderful different programs that's happening within the city, and people don't realize that transportation, you can have a wonderful collaboration between, black organizations, but if the people can't get there, I don't know the official name, but there's like a book club. This young lady, she tutors young girls. She has the east side and a west side. She does it at the library branches, and she can't even get, all the girls can't even get there because their parents don't have cars. So people don't realize that mobility and transportation, if we improved upon that, that would be so much, we would see such a big improvement on life in general. And that's what I wanted to stress, is that, people will have access to better jobs and better hospitals, better education if we have a better transit,
Yeah.
If you're stuck in where you are and you can't move,
Yeah.
And one of the last voicemails, I'm not gonna cry, that I have of my mom is that she's like, Deanne, I don't know if you've missed your bus or if your bus passed. And so that stays with me, not only the bus actually passed me by, but my life. And so that's why I'm glad,
Oh, wow.
Mhm.
I've been chilling one time, cold, shaking, and
Yeah.
are you kidding me?
That's rough.
Like hard, but shaking, and you see the bus driver look at you like,
Bye.
I gotta keep my schedule.
no, not scheduled. They'll be full.
They won't stop.
No.
No, I've
They're not
seen it.
stopping.
They're not stopping,
No, they're not stopping.
Oh, my
Oh,
word.
they won't stop. They won't stop. Like when she was talking about, you taking me back. You talking about when she was saying if you're not at this bus stop, you be running. Oh my God, hey, I'm trying to get the bus. Only how you may get it is if somebody's getting off. If you're not at that stop,
Oh,
they'll
yeah.
keep moving on you.
They won't stop if
Even
there's
if
no
they
one
see
there.
you
They see-
running,
No. Yeah, they don't care.
No.
Unless,
No.
if they nice and someone on the bus is like,
Hey, he's trying to get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll look straight.
Have you ever ran for the bus?
I have to.
Yeah.
Come on.
I guess it don't count because it wasn't here.
I'm
but-
not running for no bus.
Oh, you running for a bus?
I'm not running for a plane or a car. I'm not running nowhere.
Nah, you gotta get
No.
there.
No, I'll leave early. If I didn't, it wasn't meant to be.
But to paint the picture, you running for the bus, if you'd already been late, and your mama say, let them call in the house one more time about you being late. Bet you gonna be like this.
Well,
I'm
man, you
not
should have
running
took me.
to no bus. I'm not running
What?
nowhere.
Oh, that's what you
First
gonna
of
tell
all,
them?
like-
You should
You don't
have
run?
I don't run in general.
What
I'm
y'all-
not running nowhere.
Hey, you wouldn't have told Maggie that.
Oh.
Only way you gonna get me
I'm
to run is
going
if you
back
trying to kill
home.
me.
I'm getting in the bed.
You wouldn't have
Sorry,
told
Mom.
Maggie that.
I'm not running nowhere
Yeah,
for anything.
okay.
No.
Unless you're trying to kill me. That's when
Okay.
you'll see Aaron run.
Okay.
Jesus Christ.
Because Maggie would have tried to kill you.
When the last time you seen me run?
I have not. So, when we were in middle school.
Hello.
She didn't go to the gym.
No,
I didn't. You're right.
I was the only one jogging briskly that day, but
Oh, first of all,
Yeah,
look,
no,
I do
that
cardio.
wasn't-
I'm not running. I don't. That's not a.
No, but real quick, I just want to go back to what you said, and how you said basically it resonated with you on 2 levels. And so, does it feel like
You shouldn't.
this was your calling, maybe?
I think so. You know, if I had a theme song right now, I think it would be J. Cole's Middle Child.
Mhm.
Because
Good song.
I'm not a spring chicken. I'm not fresh off the Breslin.
Wow.
But the Breslin Center in East Lansing, you know, when you graduate, you feel like you're
You
at your
take on
peak
the world,
Coachella.
yeah.
You're about to run the
Oh, I know,
world.
girl.
And for some of us, we got back home and
Take
them-
over nothing.
Right,
Big
right.
work out like you playing.
Yes, and
And
those
life
two
smacks
months
you in the
were
face.
right. And so, but I feel like I'm still young enough. I'm not that big
Speak
sis,
for
big
yourself.
bro. But I'm right. The middle child can be overlooked, right? Because you're not the youngest or the eldest. And so I feel like I'm on that cusp of I'm finally finding myself. Like I've been volunteering. I've been, thinking about learning how to drive at like 54.
Yeah.
No, right. But it's
Hey,
like,
can you do me a favor? Just let me know when you're out on the road.
oh no, don't do that. No. But you know, when I hit my Jesus year 33, I said I want to do things that serve my spirit, and so I'm not at the salary at the job. I'm still at that job that I don't want to be at, but I know that I'm getting closer to my goal because I'm doing things that feed my spirit, that's helping people, you know. And then there's little things like, hey, I saw you in the newspaper, or I saw you at this meeting, and and then, you know, that makes you feel good. Like I think, right. I think as a community organizer, we think of Barack Obama, but we don't think of the Senator Barack. You know, we kind of think of the president. We don't think of that grassroots. Let me go knock on doors. Let me go tell people to start a block club, how to keep their houses safe. We don't, you know, we want that instant gratification and so I say I'm enjoying the ride. I'm enjoying the ride.
I appreciate that you acknowledge and appreciate that ride, because I do think all too often in today's society, people are so quick. If it's not happening right now, like, oh, you're not on, or oh, this isn't it, and I'm going to change up, I'm going to do something different, and for you to remain consistent in what you're doing and to genuinely care about it, kudos to you.
That's why I loved y'all Valentine's Day episode when y'all had to rate y'all like your life.
Oh.
And I was sitting there like,
That was
man,
real.
right? It was really
I
real.
still think about that too, because I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm in the same exact same boat. Like we're all like the same age, basically.
Yeah.
Like so, I feel like okay, you've grown, Aaron, but like not enough. Like it's just like okay, and I am that person. Like I'm impatient, you know, but I'm also I keep hearing like you know enjoy the process. Like
That's where the fun is, right? At least that's what
it
they
does,
say.
you know, yeah,
It's
like
supposed to be. If you really enjoy what you're doing, or you're passionate about what you're doing, the process shouldn't be something that makes you cringe or that you don't enjoy.
Right.
I mean, yeah, of course we want to get to the finish line, but
Right.
you should still be enjoying it if you're.
I
Really
guess the
passionate
part
about it.
I'm talking about is I love my job. That's not a problem. I'm talking about the stuff like outside of work, right? Like the stuff when you come to the realization, in order for me to grow, I have to let this go. Or in order for me to go, I have to stop doing this. In order for me to be better, I need to stop thinking this way. That stuff is like really, really hard for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that is like me becoming better, you know, every day to day. It doesn't feel like an enjoyable process. You get what I'm saying? But they're basically saying like, immerse yourself in it. You know, like, I
Be
don't-
comfortable
yeah.
being
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
Right. Because I was like,
Yeah.
I'm like, when y'all was like rating yourselves, I'm like, personally, my personal life is at a 0. You know, I have a 0 non-existent dating life. I've like, not that I've lost any friends, but I haven't been a best friend. Like, you know, one of my best friends I don't really talk to as much. And I know people grow apart or things happen. But it's like, it's almost been isolation. Like, even though I'm not the best of friend right now, look at me. I'm going out, meeting people. I'm on a podcast, you know. So it's like, it's the process. It's like growing pains, you know.
Yeah, exactly. You're doing other stuff, like you've actually like supported like local and state representatives. Can you talk a little bit about that? And you're also like really interested in improving like food benefits for people.
You see, I don't like this part. Yeah, but I
Sorry.
thank you. No,
Sorry.
but it's good.
Wave your flag.
But
Right,
it's
yeah.
good to be reminded of the stuff. I did some things with
Paid
some
sick time,
nonprofits.
yeah.
Yes. It's not glamorous, but I've done some press conferences in support of SNAP food, which is basically like food stamps. Now I'm not on food stamps anymore. You know, I had them in college, but I think at the press conference I spoke about this. Now I think to get food
Yeah.
benefits, like you have to be putting in some hours. You know,
Yeah,
and how do
like
they
you have
expect
to
you?
work or something like
Right,
that.
and
or
graduate on time.
Oh, that's.
Oh, you're talking about
college
as
students?
College
I mean, that's
students,
just,
yeah.
that's
They
just in general
in
for
ge-
people if you're
in-
on age.
Yeah, in
Yes.
general, you have to either, I think you have to be working or like be on disability. There has to be a reason that you're not working.
And,
Oh,
but,
that changed.
yeah, and
When I was
college
in school,
students, like,
Well,
it's like,
I feel like in college that happened too. They were like, you gotta be working like at least 20 hours a week.
Yeah, that's
to
what they're
get-
doing, that's what they're
Yeah.
doing, you know, it's much harder now, and so it's like these things that we take for granted, like even though I'm not on it anymore, I'm, speaking out about it, because it's like you want to leave the next generation in a better spot.
Yeah.
And so we live in such a political climate that things are kind of happening behind the scenes they're snatching these little things that we thought that we'd always have, and it's making us pick up a paper. Like, I'm not the most, newsworthy person just because of my anxiety, but I had to stay informed, and so I'm going to be doing this thing with Detroit Future City where we're going to be trying to talk about stormwater and preserving like our land and water. I'm creating rain barrels. People don't realize that when it rains, these 100-year rains have been happening every 3 years.
Mhm.
So it's really taking effect to Detroit's water, and we kind of say, oh, Flint, that's so sad, but we don't realize that we're right
up
next.
next.
That's so
Yes,
close.
yes, so
Yeah.
it's little things that, like I say, I don't have a, engineering or a background or physics and all this stuff, but I want to be informed and I want to tell others how to be informed. And so even though I'm a little shy, have been door knocking. I've been trying to tell my neighbor,
That's
hey,
good.
this is what's
Yeah.
going on. So,
Gotta start there.
right. So, but I think, and we on our phones all the time, but now with the information that we have, we're able to share it more. That's why I said, at these input meetings where these older black women are, I'm able to kind of be that young person to help them get the access to information and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so, it's
It's a
just
blessing and a curse.
a blessing and a curse, yes.
Yeah. Man, that's great.
I agree.
I'm thinking-
I
I
wish-
wish shame,
yeah.
like,
No, I mean,
Like,
I would like to attend a meeting. I'm like, no, okay, so
Right,
whatever.
right.
I just,
I know
every
what's
time
going
I
on.
talk to somebody, like, I'm like, when I hear other people's stories, I'm like, okay, Erin, yeah, you do stuff, like, outside of work, I could do more.
Yes, you do. I see y'all on the
Oh.
Snapchat. I see the picture. Y'all, at the
Like-
museum, I see y'all.
Yeah.
Y'all doing great things.
But, like, I could definitely do more and binge watch less.
I mean, but there needs to be a yin and a yang.
Yeah.
You could binge watch and do a little bit
But
of,
it's
Carve out
it's a
some
little
time.
overboard when I sit in the same spot for 6 hours.
Oh, well.
I mean, that is a
Like-
long time.
Did you
Yeah.
Watch 3 episodes instead of 6, and then I think that's.
And dedicate the other 3
Take
to
a
something
step.
else.
some type of
Baby
change.
steps.
You can't get up 3 hours.
6, 5, 4.
You watching the
wow.
whole
Maybe I
season per day. You should be
Right.
further
I
along.
flew through it.
You
I'm
should be
telling
further
you.
along.
So, you dropped on something you were breezing past, about the, like, neighborhood watches and neighborhood clubs, like, is that still a major thing? You see some, like, block clubs, but is that a major thing?
It's puzzling to me, but yes, because I want to start a block club,
Mhm.
and so I'm trying to. I'm kind of like, okay, so I'm going to these meetings and I'm talking to, like, people business owners that are expanding on Livernois, and I'm like, well, I got an Instagram page. Should I just get some flyers and put them up? They say, no, you got to go door to door. You have to engage with your neighbors. You have to not
They
and
need to know you.
right? And they say it's power in numbers, and I agree. I don't know if you guys know what's going on with vacant lots and things like that, and community gardens, but a lot of those are started by block clubs. People are coming together and they're like, hey, how can we get the grant for this so that we can improve our community and things like that. So it's old fashioned. Go to your block clubs. Like I say, when I go, I see beautiful black, brown women, but they aren't young. They're elderly, but they have been doing this and they're inspiring me to do this, and I want to, teach other millennials, teach other young people, hey, I know we get tired, we want to have a personal life outside of our work life, but just go to a meeting, and just watch, the little things that turn into big things, like see how much can grow, and it's like, we've been kind of talking about like the Nipsey hustles of our hood and why we ignore them and stuff like that, but there's Nipseys all around us, we just have to
Pay
maybe
attention.
pay attention, go door knock, go.
How would
do
you,
something.
like, how would I even, like, what would I go to find out, like, if I have a block club or?
I
Like
think
where
that,
a meeting is held or something like that, like, for my
let's-
area.
Right. I know it's, cause like I say, I'm just like trying to start one. I know that some are registered on, I believe it's Detroit.gov. And then if you wanna start one, if it, you know, hasn't already been started, just try to maybe combine, I've been told to combine with another one. And so, it really is, I guess, you know, like I say, I'm in the middle of it, so I don't want to, you know, say this is what you do, this is what you do.
Yeah.
But I know down at Wayne State in their urban safety programming, they have the block club starter kits.
Oh.
And so I'm learning, I think it has to just be you and another person, or, you know, two or more, you know, it just can't be you. And so that's the hard part for me, because even though I love talking, I love teaching people about things, I'm really shy. So I have to make myself say, hey, what we doing? And I'm not afraid anymore to ask. You know, like I said, I've been out of college 10 years, and so I'm like in trying to rebrand myself and rebrand my career. I have to learn how to ask for help. I have to, you know, a lot of these people, I went to a meeting yesterday down with COAC. This young man, a little bit younger than me, you know, I'm soaking up his energy. I told him, I said, you know, I stand. I'm your biggest fan, because, you know, you have to learn, and sometimes learning means that you just have to watch somebody. And I wish we all should have this kind of kid, like when we had to make new friends. We should always be eager to meet new people, or, you know, relearn new people, you know.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I've been like watching what you guys are doing and highlighting, you know, trying to see, hey, how can I get on, you know.
Yeah.
And so, and people, and I was at a conversation that we were talking about why African Americans in Detroit are so, it's like we have this kind of crabs in a barrel mentality where there can only be one.
Yeah.
And we don't want to work with one another. We don't want to collab. And it's like we do want to collab.
You said that last week.
Yeah, and
You
it's
said
like
that last week.
we shouldn't have that. We should be trying to, you know, put each other on or working together. You know, we
Yeah.
should want to collab. It's
There's
not.
an ever so slow change happening with that, but
Mhm.
yeah, absolutely.
That's a mindset change. You know, that's gonna take,
I think it comes with the time, like the younger millennials, and then whatever this generation now is,
I don't know what to call
I don't know what they're
Yeah.
called. But I think
Oh, Lord.
Oh, we can curse now. No. I was about to say something.
Carrie,
What were you gonna say?
Carry on
Busted
to.
babies.
Oh, Lord.
Busted
I like
babies.
that.
I know y'all sound old, right?
All right.
Y'all sound
Busted
real.
Dateable. Carry on
I feel like
to.
that fits them
It
though.
is, they're busted babies.
No, everybody just wants to be on
Oh,
top.
that's
Everyone
too
wants
big.
to look like they're
Yeah.
on top. Okay. Are you done?
I hear you.
I wanted to ask that.
Oh.
Let them live.
Okay.
Right.
Come on. What?
Tiffany,
No,
you got her thought.
I know.
I was just saying that, like, I think that it is changing. Like at one point, you know, it was about community. It was about, you know, everybody kind of sticking together, and we got away from that. I do think that we're going back to that, because if you talk to a lot of people, they all say the same thing. And I refuse to believe everybody's giving lip service.
Yeah,
You know, like, they know that, like, okay, we can support each other. And you see a lot of people starting a lot of businesses or doing things in the community, and people are coming out. People are supporting. So it's a slow roll. But I think that we're going to get there, just in due time.
You remember like block parties and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Like, I remember going to those.
Really?
I don't think I've ever been to one.
Oh, we used to have
We
them all
used
the
to have them
time.
all
They come out and
the
put those
time.
petitions up.
And
It's
there'd
like,
be
it's
like
a
a
party.
DJ.
Yeah.
It was like so much fun. But I think, and people have talked about this, really, technically, like, it's our generation who kind of messed that up.
definitely dropped
Because we're the ones who, like, went off to college and it was every man for himself.
Yeah.
But not even
And we
that.
I
didn't,
still
like,
feel
we didn't
guilty about
pass
that.
anything down or
We
try to
moved away.
receive anything.
That's the
Yeah,
biggest
and we
thing.
moved
Yeah.
away.
We moved away. Because the thing about it, if you were still there, so everyone has a collection of friends. If you took 5 to 10 of your closest friends and you all bought a house on the block, you can bring that same atmosphere back of a block party. Because that friend gonna tell a friend, oh, we over here, we moved.
Yeah.
It's cool, we live in. They gonna buy this house and y'all buy this house, and now you got 20 friends on the block. That's a block party.
I like new friends. Like, I don't want to.
You don't want to do that with your old friends?
I mean, no, I love my friends from high school
You
are
trying to say
still my
yourself?
friends.
Go ahead, backpedal.
Not at all. But I also know I don't want to live next door to my best friend. You know what I mean? Like,
What?
I dream of a cul-de-sac. No.
No.
You don't even like people.
Tiffany likes quiet time. Tiffany likes to, I want to come home
And not turn up every day?
yeah. who
You
likes to
set
turn up every
boundaries,
day?
like, you
But
know.
that's my
Yeah, like I'm
friend.
not partying today, I'll catch y'all
My
tomorrow.
friend knows that I'm cooking because she can smell the food from across the street.
And my door is locked.
Yeah,
It's
that's
me
obvious,
time.
yeah.
When,
And then
when
it's
this
like-
little tag is on the door, that means don't bother me.
When I,
These are not the dorms. I no longer.
Why not though? That was like some of the best times of my life. Like
We
we
have to
even talked
progress
about
in
that
life.
in college. We were like, oh, we should all live on the same street. Then it got to the point where we got older and some of us are still single. We're like, oh, once we hit like 45, 50, if we're not like, married with children, whoever's single, we're just gonna get like a 15-bedroom house.
It's called a brothel.
And
No, Lord.
We're not dishing out
first of
services.
all, okay, first of
I'm
all,
telling
Oh, so you down with this too, Soraya?
Absolutely.
But,
No.
FYI,
let's give you the definition.
FYI,
I don't think, I don't think it's gonna be 15
Listen,
of us.
listen.
absolutely
It's
not.
gonna be a strong
FYI,
four,
it'll be
five.
men there too. Some of them are single, not like men coming
This is getting
in.
more inappropriate.
A group of female and male friends, just like a
You
co-ed
guys want to
dorm.
sing along?
No, they'll be single. They'll
I
be
think
having
all the guys are gonna
old
get married.
kids.
Look, just in case they don't. Our
This sounds like a
friends,
cult.
they have.
It's this.
They do that down in Texas.
Speaking
somewhere.
of cult,
No, let's finish up our serious
no, we
conversation.
talk about that
Let's
later.
finish up our serious conversation. Deanne, is there anything else before we get into everything else that you want the people to know about what you're doing?
No, I just want to, you guys to just like whoever's listening, stay involved. And I think people like, oh, I got to do this to volunteer and I got to do this. Just start off small. And I learned a lot about these things through Instagram, through social media, these meetings that's going on, Facebook. I know it was like, who still gets on Facebook? A lot of information I get on Facebook.
I do.
Hey, we streaming on Facebook. How y'all doing?
And, Facebook and stuff like that. And start like, and I think you don't have to, like I said, you don't have to have any degrees to be a helper. Like, let's get out of that whole, you got to go to school. Like I said, I feel fresh, like out of state. Like I feel like an intern. I'm doing a lot of free stuff. The stipends that I've been receiving doing some of this stuff, I put back into, the community. And so, but
People
it's,
don't really have a serve mentality anymore. It's like,
Yeah.
I gotta
Get to the
get
money.
mine and then I can chill. Like,
Right.
no, you should get yours
Yeah.
and then like serve the community you came out of.
So let me ask you a question. What are some places they can follow, like pages that they can follow that you can drop, web pages that they can follow? Like if someone wanted to start, I guess, figuring it out, where they can play their role or find their lane in, in giving back or just trying to do more for the community. You have any?
let's see. Okay, so, like I said, I got AmeriCorps. I know people have a love-hate
I
relationship with
wanted to talk
AmeriCorps.
to you about that.
Yes, yes.
I'm interested
Yeah.
in your AmeriCorps story.
And they do give we don't like to, we can't say we work for AmeriCorps, we serve in AmeriCorps, but they do some great educational rewards if you're trying to go back to school or you're trying to pay for school. They have some education, incentives and things like that. Let's see, Detroit Future City, they're looking for volunteers. Like I'm part of the Land and Water program, so that's another thing. And let me see, because I got so many. The city of Detroit, if I'm going to start looking at the city of Detroit, but they have a lot of different programs and things. I know you just mentioned about the youth. They're going to have a summer program about working. And so I have some other ones. I have to get a list together, but like I
actually
said.
have one that it's called Volunteer Match. So I actually used that a couple years ago because I was like, Aaron, you need to do something. You know what I mean? So I tutored English as a second language for maybe like almost a year or whatever. But it was in Detroit. You can pick your city, that you want to volunteer in. They have different, things that different categories. So whatever matters to you, whether it's health, transportation is one of them, education, you can pick whatever you want and they can let you know what they need volunteers for. So, volunteermatch.com.
Okay.
And you can, serve, but still do something that you like,
Right, and I also did Mother and Justice, which I'm not a mother, I don't have any kids yet, but, a lot of these programs, you think, well, is that for me? And I'm not a political person, but, just browse the web, see, like, what's your, your passion and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And so, and then there's another group called MOASH, which deals with teen and reproductive health and stuff. So that's the thing, I have like ADHD with like social justice issues. I want to do it all, I find something and I want to be a part of it. So, just, research, and like I say, I'm still learning, and we'll all learn together,
What's your goal? Like, where you heading?
Oh, goodness, wow. I woke up today and said, I think I could be mayor. I'll probably have to go back to law
I knew you were
school.
running for something.
And
I
I really, and then my grandma's like, no, do precinct delegate. And then she's like, no, you can do more. If Duggan can do it, you can do it. And so, and I'm like, right. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to go back to school, which I probably have to do. Sometimes I want to do urban planning, or sometimes I want to like build a lot or a community garden. I get inspired every day. And that's why I'm so happy for the work that I'm doing. Is because like I had been dead. They say comparison is the thief of joy. And so I had been watching my peers, like, I graduated from, Michigan State with a journalism degree. And I said, I thought I would be on ESPN like Jamila. I wasn't. I thought I would be like my friend William. He writes for Vibe and Revolt and all that stuff. I thought I would be him. But I can only be Deanne, And I'm like one of those divine people. Everything happens for a reason. I'm in this room for a reason, and Mama, I'm not gonna miss my bus. I'm not gonna miss it this time. I'm on the bus going somewhere. So I don't know what my ultimate goal, but I know I want to help the city.
You can get a transfer. You can go anywhere you want to go.
Yeah. Hey. No 50 cents. No.
Yeah, y'all just bring back so many bad memories. Can I get a transfer service? You've seen them porters go in there. I need my transfer.
So how does a transfer? So
I wish I could have been a fly on the wall.
I've never ridden the bus.
Bougie.
I've only rode it like once.
And bougie too. Bougie 1, bougie 2.
I've been on the bus in New York, but like I've never been on a
that was like, let's try this.
So how does it?
First of all,
Let me ask her a question. So
how does it work? Like,
so if you get on, you pay the initial fare, and this is how I remember it. It's been a while. But
Right.
you can pay like, I think it was 50 cents, it was 25 cents at the time to get a transfer to the next bus. So instead of having to pay another additional fare, if you're in goal, like for instance, if you were going from the east side to maybe Northland Mall when it was around. So like say if you got
pour one out for Northland.
so if you got on, let's say if you got on the
She not
Michigan
gonna
Avenue
know.
or something.
No, I think in the terms of like New York. So if you need to go uptown and then across town,
Right, I'm saying.
Yeah,
like
so
you need to get a transfer to
Well,
go across town.
But she lives in Detroit. She should know the streets.
That's just minor details. If you were getting off one bus to get to
Like I was
another,
saying.
I think I get it.
Do you?
I'm pretty sure she
I mean,
does.
I'm sure. You
So
gotta go.
basically, instead of paying twice, if you're going to continue riding, you can get a transfer. Now, you don't use that transfer so many times. Like you get I think it's three times or something. Like,
Yeah, you can use it 4 times, which
Right.
with the expansion, it's going to be some improvements.
Like
Like
in
it won't be
2
4
hours?
yeah.
Well,
It used to be 4 hours.
it's a certain amount of
4 hours,
time.
yeah.
And because basically it's for like one ride, you know what I'm saying? So if I needed to ride 4 buses to get where I was going, I don't have to pay 4 fares. I'll get this transfer.
You gotta ride what? No, go ahead.
Bus.
Go ahead.
Instead of me paying 4 fares, then I'll get it stamped here, and then I'll give it to my last.
Oh, that brings me to a point where you were talking. I think that
I mean, she wasn't listening.
I'm not
Yeah, we
one
did
bit.
talk about that.
She was waiting on you to finish so she could start talking.
no, it just made me think of like you're explaining all of this to me. Most people don't know how the whole bus system works.
Yeah, that's
They
true.
don't.
A lot of
Especially
people
now.
do, but like I don't know the struggle of riding the bus and taking transfers
And you gotta time things,
and,
like,
and how that
yeah,
works and what
right.
happens if you
Yeah.
miss your bus. And I
Yeah.
venture to say that a lot of people in Detroit, though a lot do know, a lot don't because it's a motor city. You know, like
Yeah,
you turn
yeah.
16, you get a car. You know, like
Mhm.
everybody.
And you don't look back.
Right. But I mean, I think that this is something that people need to know about and people need to truly understand. So my question would be like, how do you how do you get them to buy in? Like, how do I care? I know that sounds harsh, but like bare minimum, like how do you get people who are driving any and everywhere they go
To care about the
To
bus.
know nothing about the bus
They
system.
probably
yeah.
never will.
Yeah.
But see,
But-
now I'm interested because like that seems like a lot.
It is.
Knocking
It's
on
like-
doors and talking to
You're
people.
talking about,
Yeah.
you're talking about possibly adding 2 hours
Mhm.
to your day, back and forth, depending on how far you're going.
Yeah.
Like for me, I get up and
Unlock the
and
door.
lollygag
15
all
minutes to work.
morning. 15 minutes. I leave for work at like 7:50.
And get there before 8.
I mean, it might be a little after.
8:02.
That don't matter, whatever. But
Mhm.
my commute for work, to and from work, is super short compared to someone
Just
who
taking the bus.
Right.
you have to leave out at a
Yeah, have to
specific
get
time.
up
When it's
early.
still dark.
If you get held up at any point on your
You're
journey,
late.
Right.
You're late.
and by no
That's it.
fault of your own, which can then compromise your job, because it's only so many times that employers
Right.
don't understand.
Do you remember the story of the guy that walked?
Yes.
It was like
Already, yeah.
10
Yes.
miles or
That was
something.
ridiculous.
The guy
yes.
to see his wife.
Every
No, it
day.
worked.
No.
He walked, I
No,
think it was
somebody
like-
bought him a car or something.
I think
like
so,
that.
his job.
They did a GoFundMe,
Mhm.
and then someone else, the dealership gave him a car. But he walked, I don't want to say 14, but it was.
It was in double
was-
digits. It was
It
at
was
least
like
10.
10, it's
Yeah.
like 10 miles to and fro
Yeah.
to work
Mhm.
every day. Was never late,
Yeah.
never missed
Nah.
a day,
Yeah.
never complained.
That's a commitment.
Mm,
That's
thing.
determination that I don't have.
Now,
Okay.
now,
No.
pardon me, he could have got on the bus. He didn't have to.
But I mean,
Yeah.
maybe.
That's honest.
But he might not have been on the bus route.
And you know,
Yeah.
people don't
Because
realize
they did shut
this.
down a lot of routes.
Yes,
They
like
did.
the 38 bus, which goes to Livonia, it doesn't run as often as the Woodward does. So
Yeah.
and it
Every
only comes every
hour.
hour. So if you miss that hour,
You
you're
gotta-
messed
yeah.
up. Like if I worked like at 3, my day would start at 9 because I'm like, I gotta at least be out there so I'm not missing a bus. You know, I'm not missing a bus. And you brought up something that was important, like how do we care? It's interesting that you say that because the city of Livonia, which is, and I heard a white person say this yesterday at a meeting, it's the whitest, kind of suburb,
Really?
really,
It
I
is?
mean, it really
It
is
is.
almost, and it's
Say
like,
what?
and it's like they were the last to jump on when DDOT
I would've
and we
never
were trying to
guessed that.
expand like the transit system to go out to the suburbs where Smart and DOT
Mhm.
were trying to do their collab. No, flat out and then it wasn't until I think maybe like an elected official wrote he was in the newspaper, he was on a bus that people were like, wow, an elected official is on the bus, he knows how it feels. And I'm like, well, he doing this now, but if and it's like it's easy to say, it's easy to have empathy sometimes for people like I said, mentioned about the homeless thing. Oh, well, I'm not homeless. Like you can care as much as you want, but until you've experienced it, it's
Yeah.
kind of hard. But like maybe on a day, just pick a day, I know the parking downtown is horrendous, I've heard,
It
but
is.
like pick a day where you just got your bus fare and you just go down to campus or go walk around, and see something and just, like I say, it might not be for you, that's why I say try it for a day and see how it works, but for the people that,
We're gonna get together.
right, but I think,
No, we all should.
yeah,
Today, we're gonna come back.
Mhm.
We're gonna make Tiffany
Catch it from where?
this area,
mhm.
Southfield.
Huh?
But now
Say
people.
what?
Now you don't want to. What you want to drive
No,
down?
I
to
mean,
campus?
okay, well, let's just plan to let's make a day of it.
Yeah.
It's gonna
Yes.
take a whole day to get to Detroit, so bring some, bring some to drink.
If we were going to tour, like take
If it's
a
16 Dexter running, we good.
good
When last we
tour
been on the
through
bus?
the
I know that's 16.
what bus? What would you say?
I
What
would
you
definitely
recommend?
take the Woodward. The Woodward is my favorite bus because it gets me to my favorite place, which is downtown Campus Marches. If I can afford to live downtown, I would live right down there. You have such a beautiful landscape. It looks totally different down that Woodward, Woodward Avenue. And it's, you can find great places to eat. I think the Lip Bar is down there. I bought some new
Oh,
lipstick, and I went to Starbucks. Starbucks is like my favorite place. And so, and like I said, you can go on the queue if you want to be fancy and flashy, but it's nothing like that Woodward bus. It's when it's on, and yes, it has its issues and its problems. That's another layer of it.
Yeah.
The bus system, the actual part of that. But just go down and just like enjoy the day, Especially since the weather is getting better.
I know, right? So we don't
Do
have
they have
an
air on the
excuse.
bus?
Some of them do, yes, yes.
First of all,
Go before
yes.
it gets too
I
high.
saw the disappointment in your face that she even asked.
I mean, it
Not all
don't
of them.
always,
Not all-
it doesn't
I've
always
been on the
work,
bus and it's been hot as
but they
hell.
have them.
Tiffany,
don't
and
always
And you're
work.
sitting with people in close, proximity, and you're like.
Let me tell you a horror story I had.
She been
So,
feeling this field trip.
get on the bus one day, and I was going to school, and walk in like, wait, hold on, what was that? And then you looking around like, you looking, you surveying the crowd. Now the engine of the bus is in the back of the bus. It's where it's the hottest typically, so most people crowd back there during the winter, right? Somebody else had Beatus back there, and they more likely didn't have anywhere to live. So,
They was cooking.
no,
Basically.
this urine was cooking.
Oh, no.
You want to talk about, I've never
Did you
seen.
get off and just catch the next one?
Oh, no, we got to get, I had to get where I was going.
Yeah.
But the whole, that whole area, no one was back there.
I bet.
Yeah, it's been some things, I done seen some things in the bus.
So what's your craziest bus story? Because you've been riding it for a long time now, right?
Right.
So like, I'm sure you've seen some stuff.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
been
dog.
some crazy different personalities. Like it's not for everybody. I don't know if this man was struggling with like some mental issues, but he was just kind of like cussing and going off. And it was like little kids, and they were kind of getting scared. But it's also, if you know somebody that's kind of dealing with something mentally, you have to be careful how you approach them. And even the bus driver was getting agitated. And, there are a lot of bus drivers that are rude. But,
Seen the
safety,
videos.
but safety for them is a big issue. And so, I've watched long cuss outs by a passenger and the bus driver, and the bus driver is responsible for getting us down Woodward. And it's snowing. Right.
I'm gonna need you to eyes front, mister.
I asked the lady cussed the bus driver out her entire ride. She got on.
Why are you so angry?
She got on because she was bypassed by two other buses, so he got on. So she got on.
She should have been thanking that
and
man.
got to going in. My man was like this.
What was her reason?
I don't
Because she
remember.
missed her 2 buses.
But that
That ain't his
was,
fault.
she should have been thanking him.
She was going in on just life, the bus system,
Oh,
everything, and then
Because she's probably about to lose her job.
Then I
Because
think
she's been late.
It's lost if she already missed 2 buses.
Right.
then
That's
I think she was
terrible.
putting her her money in because if it was for a certain amount of time, sometimes the dollar feeder, like the cash feeder, wouldn't work, so you always have to use coins.
What if you don't have coins?
Yeah, you want to get known.
Yeah, and
So-
then that's been like one of
Tiffany,
the
you would
parts
have a
I've
hard
had.
time.
Yeah.
We gonna work it out on our.
Excuse
Just
me,
hold
sir. I
on.
need to speak with your supervisor.
I only have this card.
So
You have somewhere for
she
me
was
to
going
swipe?
off. He was just in his thing, and it was so bad about how she knew where she was. She never looked at anything. She was at his neck.
And then got off when it was time.
And as soon as he pulled up, he's like, and that's what I don't give a fuck. And
Exit the stage left.
and that was her. I said, gee.
And that planned out.
I was like, he about to catch
I mean-
all of this work.
And then
Yep.
this is where it gets good. When she got off, he turned around and pulled out a
Oh, he ain't hear nothing she said.
pulled out a headset thing like
Oh my
You gotta
God.
be
She
a
was
strong
tripping, wasn't
person.
she? I ain't hear nothing she said.
he pulled up and like the whole bus started to die. He turned around like, did I hear what you said? I was in tears like,
I
hey
don't
blood.
blame him.
Blood, you heard that you said? He said no. When she got on and got to going, I just turned my radio up.
That
and
was
let her
a
go.
good idea.
Oh,
Let her vent.
I was dying.
He wasn't trying to lose his job. I don't blame him.
'Cause I done
But
seen
let
it
me
go.
drive this bus.
The first time I got on the bus, I wasn't holding on. I fell all the way in this man's lap. My shit went everywhere. I'm like,
okay,
I'm
sir.
so sorry. He didn't speak English though, so he didn't even understand my apologies. But
He thought.
This happened in New York.
He went home like,
like my papers and purses just went everywhere. And I'm like, oh my God.
and he went home
That's
like,
like one of my biggest fears, falling in public. Man. Like,
the bad part about that, it's one thing to fall, but when your stuff just go awry,
Yes, I had to
I
like
know.
gather my things.
then the wind blows and you got papers.
Oh, nah.
I'm like
Chase
that type of person. Like I'll be in like a meeting. It's like 20 people in a conference room, and I'm like, Aaron, don't be that one person like spill your coffee across the whole table.
You that
Everybody
weird
got to pick their laptops. I just think I could like
I
Aaron,
never think like
just
that.
make sure you don't like,
You
Not
you know,
that
reach
much.
across your coffee
I'm
cup or
always,
something.
I'm always falling, tripping. I'm like,
Oh,
Lord,
God.
that would be me.
Just-
Oops, sorry guys.
That's
Just
it.
don't bring your coffee cup.
I do it all the time though. I'm just like, sit it away from you
Mm.
so I don't like wet the whole table up. Like,
You have a paranoia issue.
oh well.
Oh, well, Deanne,
I
thank you
am
for
what I am.
sharing all of that with us.
Yeah, I'm glad you
And with
came.
everyone, yeah, you definitely educated us and everyone who's listening.
Inspire
who
me
will
to,
listen.
I need to do better every
You
day.
must post it. Like,
Yes.
you got my vote.
I do want to know, how did you hear about it?
Instagram, and then because I follow Aaron, and then I was like, oh.
Shut your mouth.
And so I'm like, oh, let me, check them out. And I saw like you guys highlight people, what's going on in the city, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, they're about my age. Let me see what's going on. Let me see if they'll have me, because, and then I would listen, and I'm like, oh, wow, like I said, you guys are like my BFFs in my head. And I'm like, man,
That
you're
makes me
right.
happy.
Yeah, right. So I'm like, it's like word of mouth.
I know. Oh, I'm blushing.
I know.
Yeah, turn it right
That's
there.
grassroots, and I think that matters most when
Yeah.
something's grassroots. Because it might not start, fast, but
Right,
once it
right.
goes,
Yeah.
it
Mhm.
goes.
And then they got this new word, young people, clout chasing. Well, I think yes, it's not good to always clout chase, but it's good to know what people are doing and try to hop on
There's
because
no way
yeah.
to go without
the help of
Right.
someone
No.
else.
Yeah, I don't like that word. I don't
Everybody
think
was
that's
built.
the,
Everything
yeah.
was built off the back of someone.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's
yes,
true.
it was.
I think
Mhm.
that
That's
word
real.
it should only apply, or when they use it, it should be if it's in a negative way. You
Like
know what
sack
I mean?
chasing.
Yeah, like or like clout chasing, meaning like I'm coming after you, or I want to argue with you so I can get famous or something like that.
Oh,
Not
yeah.
me trying to be a part of,
Yeah.
trying to do
Right,
something
trying to do
positive.
something.
But people tend to use that word for all of it, and it's not correct.
I've only understood clout chasing to be that, like
Yeah.
on Instagram
Right.
or something.
Mhm.
You say negative things to a celebrity just to get some
Get some
attention.
attention.
Correct.
I thought that was trolling.
But they
Oh,
use
I thought those
Yeah.
aren't those interchangeable?
I don't know. Give me here.
I don't like these new words. I mean, clout is not a new word. I just don't like.
I still
How
wouldn't know
they-
what no cap mean.
I don't know what
Me,
that means.
what
I know what it
Please,
means. I have no idea
I
where
don't
it
know
came
what that
from.
It's like,
I
I'm
thought
not
it was lying,
lying.
but it's not lying.
It
though.
is.
It is lying.
But it's,
Like when somebody
I've
says
heard it
something, they
used.
ain't like no cap. Like they
Or,
I'm
or
not
that's,
lying.
or that's cap. Like
Like, I'm
cap
not
itself
playing.
means lying.
But you don't say that's lie. That's cap. That's
I mean,
cap.
it's just the slang
I mean,
word.
it's not correct English. Like, these people,
No,
Where did it
but
originate
when I,
from?
but when I,
Somebody tell me.
but when I
dumb.
hear it in those using that way, it's like, nah, I can't
You
do
trying to
that.
use it grammatically correct?
No, it don't.
It
don't
doesn't
have
matter.
to be
Those busted
grammatically.
babies came up with that. So
Bust.
It's
again,
irrelevant.
you guys sound like the old heads who talk about the younger generation. Like things were different when I was young.
I ain't say all that. My
Baby
dad
girl,
said that
you
all
ain't
the
young
time.
no more. that
It's a new
that ain't
day.
it.
It's a new day.
I'm
Well, before we go there, do
Salute
y'all
out there.
want to get into any current events
I
or
do.
anything that's going on?
Sounds
Aaron,
like
you sound like you
Look,
Rhett.
I mean, we can discuss this new cult
No,
that Kanye trying to.
Oh, I've read
I
about
do
that.
want to.
Why do we have to go in on Kanye?
We're not going to go into that. I'm not going to be a part of it. But I do want to.
I mean, it is news.
I'm not going to be a part of it because we only have like 10 minutes. So very quickly, I do want to.
So y'all gonna go to Kanye's church?
So very quickly, I want to sing congratulations to the Detroit chapter of Delta City Theater. They just brought 103.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Wow.
Real
Yeah.
good. I do have one question for you ladies. Did you all hear about what happened to Bun B?
Yes.
Yep,
I
he
did.
should have killed him.
Wait,
I'm sorry.
I'm not going there.
Sometimes I jump.
So someone broke.